Hi, welcome to today's section. I'm happy to see Roslyn here. Roslyn, how are you doing?
I'm fine, I'm good, and you?
I'm okay. So how is yours today?
Yes, has been fine. I just got back from a walk and it was pretty cool. It rained, but now it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So why did you choose to study in the US?
Okay, so my journey actually started, that was in 2018 when I came for a program called Miracles Corners of the World Fellowship Program, MCW. I came into that program as a social entrepreneur, or will I say as an advocate? Let me just say more specifically as a gender advocate. It was a fully funded opportunity. That was in 2018. So we're actually lodged in New York, one of the hostels in New York. So that was our final day. I can remember vividly the last day of our program. We had like a gala night. So I met up with a friend of mine. So when I was in Nigeria, when I was in secondary school, I was the assistant senior girl. So the set after me, she was also the assistant senior girl. I met up with her during the program, and we're just talking about life, academics, career, and everything. So she told me what were my plans for after masters because I was on my master's program then. I told her, well, I would love to do PhD, but I really didn't know how to go about that. So she advised me that I could start working on coming to the US. And when she told me, I was kind of surprised because I never imagined, never thought of that earlier on. So I was intrigued. Then I asked her like how I could go about it. Then she told me that she would actually link me up with some of her friends and all that. I could reach out to people. And she also told me that there were scholarships available, and I never even really imagined that. Then from there, I started working towards that was how I got to know about the whole thing. Thank you.
Interesting. So like you talked about documents. So if someone is considering like studying in your university or other universities in the UK, so what document do you think that they need to be able to put up an application?
Okay, so definitely the general documents. But like I would say, most of my conversation today will actually come from the humanities perspective, being an art student. So that would be like the major conversation I'll be basing my experience on today. So majorly, of course, there are general documents. You need your transcript, very, very important. And let me just say this. I remember at some point in time, I would see people who have to school, they wouldn't make any effort to get a transcript. And I would be wondering why. Like, are you serious at all? And even beyond academics, even beyond like scholarship, personally, I remember when I was during my master's, I've actually been a recipient of a lot of fully funded opportunities. Some were not even necessarily related to anything academics, but they would still ask me, where is your transcript? And imagine if I didn't work towards getting those transcripts, then I would have actually lost out on those opportunities. So always have those things like handy, even though you're not even using. Once you're done with school, get your transcript. You don't have to wait for maybe, okay, I want to apply for this opportunity, I want to apply for that. Try to get your transcript on time. Then another thing that is very important is you have to use statement of purpose statement. So that's like a written word on your motivation, why you want to study in the school, why you want to do what you want to do, your career trajectory. So that's like it depends on the school. Sometimes they'll give you some prompts, they give you like number of words. That's also very important. Then another thing you may want to do, you may need to write some examination. So it depends on various schools. Some schools will need GRE. Some schools will say you should write IELTS or TOEFL. So different schools and their requirements. So it's also good for you to check with the school on the requirements they need in terms of the program you want to apply to. So those are the very important documents you need. Then sometimes so some schools will ask for writing samples too. That's also very important. You may need to write something. It could be actually maybe like a snippet of your thesis, your projects, your during your master's or maybe during your first degree. So those are documents that you really need for graduate school application. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Roslyn. So you just talked about statement of purpose because I know that is critical even for masters and then
Yeah.
PhD again. So for you, would you say like what made your statement of purpose stand out? Like how did you structure it in case someone is struggling on how to like write their statement of purpose?
Okay, so talking about statement of purpose, you have to be strategic about it. You have to really know how, like, okay, why you want to really study the course. So basically, I always tell people that you can actually start with like an introduction. That introduction can actually make the first more like, okay, just introduce yourself, your background, your qualification, what you've been doing, and things like that. So for me, I see it as maybe, looking back, so to say, like, okay, this is me, this is my qualification, this is what I have, and things like that. Then perhaps the second paragraph can now look at, okay, where you're going to. Like, okay, based on these qualifications, based on what I've done before, based on this, based on that, based on that, then I would like to do something like this. For me, it was more of like, okay, yes, I'm a gender. Of course, I'm studying French literature, but my French literature is actually hinged on feminist theory. And I've done a lot of things based on advocacy. So more like first paragraph. For me, I started from the storytelling approach about, okay, how in Nigeria about some of the issues faced when it comes to gender issues and all that, and what I've been doing right from, Nigeria. Then the second paragraph was like, okay, yes, this is what I want to do. This is what I envisage, why I want to do this program and all that. Then your third paragraph can I look into, okay, now let's talk about the things you have that you feel like, yes, how you stand out. So for me, it could be like, okay, yes, in this gender advocacy, I have volunteering experiences. So it might be good for you to end what you want to do to that. Maybe you're applying for something related to like climate change. You might have done something, maybe even volunteering wise in the area of climate change. Your third paragraph can actually talk about how you're actually equipped with the skills in the area of volunteering. Another thing you can also talk about would also be aside volunteering, maybe you wrote a project. For me, when I was doing my master's, my project was actually related to something around gender. So like, okay, my project was on this. So I believe that I'm capable. If there are other extra things or other things for you to actually put out to the fore, to actually convince the people that will read your application that yes, you really know what you're doing, you really know why you want to do what you want to do. Please put that there. It doesn't have to be like, okay, first paragraph, second paragraph, you may structure it the way you want, but this is just like a kind of template, so to say. And again, for some reason, some people actually like change what they want to do. Like, yeah, maybe the past may be different from the future, so to say. Like, okay, these are my qualifications. Paragraph might be different from, okay, this is what I want to do. But okay, also you should be able to also explain like, okay, although I studied this in school, now I would like to perhaps change my career trajectory and the reason why you want to do that. And also maybe some of the things you might have done in order to equip yourself for the new career trajectory you're actually looking towards. That's also very important. So just bring out what you've been doing. For me. So just more okay, my volunteering activities and all that. And if you have maybe like what's it called now, website. So some of the things you're doing, I also included my website. I have a blog. My blog was actually a selling point for me at some point. I will explain that later. So I attached, like I just attached the link. Okay, I have a blog. I'm doing a lot of things on the gender advocacy to show that yes, I really know what I'm saying. Then another paragraph can then talk about, so another thing I also advise people to talk about is, so most of, especially in the US, it depends. You may have to teach at some point, maybe like get funded. Some people get funded. There are three major ways through which you can be funded. We have what we call graduate assistantship, we have teaching assistantship, research assistantship. For teaching assistantship, that means you get your stipend, you get paid by teaching students, undergraduates. Then research assistantship, that means you have to do research, you work with a professor, you do some researches and all that. Then graduate assistantship, that means the school will employ you as a staff, so to say. So you work for the school. It could be something, it may not be related to what you're doing. Maybe you work at the administrative section of the school. So three ways. However, we see that most times a lot of people get, even if they get research assistantship, at some point the school, especially my school, I don't know how, if it's like a general thing, they actually mandate all grad students to teach at some point, even if it's like a semester or so. So for me, I always tell people this, and this is really very important. I notice that a lot of people actually downplay their NYC experience, which is actually very crucial. It's a 1 year in your life. You don't have to just trivialize that 1 year. You can actually put that to the fore in your statement of purpose. For example, during my service year, I was opportunity to serve in the University of Ilorin. This was a university. And I taught that undergraduate students, I graded, I did a lot of things. So for me, I knew that they were going to be big on, okay, and for me, I already knew that I was going to be teaching, not that because of my course of study. Teaching was actually like I tilted towards teaching. So I told them, yes, during my statement of purpose, I wrote it there. I've even done this. Okay, I've taught in the university. I've done this and all that. And if there's some things that I feel like maybe some teaching resources that maybe in vogue that they are trained that I feel like okay, people use nowadays in terms to actually facilitate teaching. You can even say, oh, I have skills in educational, technological skills or maybe like tools or something like that, website or something like that, to show them that yes, even if you're going to be teaching, you already have some skills already and you're going to, nail it. Very, very important. You can include that. Then even in the volunteering section too, during NYC, we all went for CDS. Some people also downplay that. You can also put that. Maybe even if your CDS was something related to gender, and I know some CDS groups are related to gender. Mine was sustainable development goals, some maybe education. And you did some things. You can also put it there. Some people overlook those, little things when it comes to a statement of purpose. So you include that there. Then another thing that will likely be the fifth paragraph would be now talking about why you're choosing the school. So when you're talking about why you're choosing the school, I noticed that a lot of people, most times they're always generic. I love the school because they will just look at, some people just go, I've actually like, looked at people's statement of purpose before. And sometimes it's like some people just like cut out some paragraphs of, okay, why, from the school website and just insert. No, it doesn't work that way. Try to, mark out certain things that you feel like, okay, these things are very, very important when you want to write about that. For example, in my own case, so I think I applied to two universities. So for me, I'm studying French literature. One of the schools actually have this opportunity, it has rather this opportunity whereby you could actually do a graduate concentration in gender studies. So it's like maybe like a minor, you're doing a minor in gender studies, even though I'm studying French literature. And I saw that that was actually a very good thing. So I added that, oh, I saw that in your website that, okay, you could do this. And I feel like, okay, I felt like that could, be very important for me in terms of what I want to do. That's very key. Another school, they said you'd maybe go to France for a semester. That was also another thing I put out to the fore. So look at some very, very minute things that I feel like, okay, yes, not just something generic that you could just point out to. Or maybe there's a particular professor there that I feel like, okay, this professor actually has something more streamlined and you're very passionate about that. And also say, okay, yes, this person's research actually aligns with okay, what I want to do. So try to even things that they themselves they may not even really see as that a big deal. Try to it's not it doesn't have to be something really generic. It might be as minute as this and you just bring it to the fore on the reason why you want to be in the school. And yeah, so basically that's what I would say based on statement of purpose. And of course most of the conversation I'll be saying today based on being in the hearts being an art student. However, I feel like this is still something you can actually like use generally for your statement of purpose. Just try to ensure that everything is well structured. Maybe your background, where you're going, the skills you have, volunteering experiences, or other things you have while you're choosing the school. And I believe you're good to go.
Thank you, Roslyn. So like you said, you applied to more than one university. I know that's
Yeah,
demanding because the same thing happened even when I was trying to do my master's. You have to keep applying to various schools.
yeah.
So I just want you to like explain what your experience was. How did you feel? Because I know it can be so draining. And like how can people like cope up with that process and be encouraged to like because I believe the more you apply, you have more chances. So it's less for you at the end to say, even though I get everything, I'll streamline to one. So how can they work around like applying to various schools? Yes.
Okay, so what I would say basically is that don't be discouraged. Just try very hard to like, even when you receive those love letters, those breakfast, just keep pushing. So during my own from my own experience, I remember so like I told you, a friend of mine advised me, oh Rose, you could when I came to the US in 2018. So that same year I started gathering my, application documents, looking out for schools I could apply to, blah blah blah, and things like that. I remember that first day, I applied to four schools And at the end of the day, no school admitted me. I felt so bad. In fact, I remember the last school I heard from when I saw the letter, I cried. Like I cried. And then it was even funny because the money, because I had to pay for application fee. There was no application waiver. And I had to pay for everything. And then I remember it was quite a struggle for me to get the money. In fact, I had to borrow part of the money at some point from a friend of mine. And it was like, so I just wasted this money, like at the end of the day. So it was really very, very, very like challenging. But then again, and that was like a year gone, like, okay, yes. But then I was like, okay, Rose, you won't give up on this. You just have to keep trying. So I tried again the second time. And the second time I went all hard because I knew that I just want, like, it is this or nothing for me, or I don't even know what is the next step in my life at that point. Like, okay, I just have to, get this PhD um, admission. So I applied again, then 10 schools. Then yeah, I applied to 10 schools and I had to pay the application fee for all those schools. But I was working then, so it wasn't really that bad on like it was still manageable for me. And I got into 4 or 5 schools, yeah, that that year when I applied to 10 schools, and that was it for me. But then for me, I would call myself a serial applicant. I apply for a lot of things. So for me, I'm actually used to breakfast. However, sometimes, there's still some opportunities that it's like, okay, I know, once I get this opportunity, I will blow. That's just, yeah. But you know that there's some opportunities that are very, very prestigious that I know that my eyes are on them. And when I get those breakfasts, like, oh, especially when I actually like think through the processes and even how I actually went all hard on those applications. But it is what it is. Just keep trying. And I always tell people, if you don't try, you won't get anything. But if you try, at least sometimes it could just be one. And I always tell people when it comes to opportunities, a number of people tell me that, okay, Rose, you've gotten a lot of things, you've gotten a lot of awards, you've gotten a lot of recognitions, and all those things. And sometimes I'll just smile that you only see the ones you see me posting, they are my wins. They're those that you see that, okay, yes, I got. Like maybe in a year, I may just get just this is just like an example. Maybe I may just get 5. And those 5 will be like, oh, she gets a lot of things. But you don't know like 10, 15 opportunities that apply to love letters. But then what I would just tell people is that sometimes it could just be 1, 2, 3 that will just make a difference in what you're doing that year. And that will actually like, and one thing about getting opportunities is that once you get one and you keep getting more and more, it's those ones you've gotten before, they all serve as stepping stones for bigger opportunities. So once you accumulate them, everything just gets better. So that's what just it's life. Just everything doesn't always work out, but you just have to keep trying. I know sometimes, really understand that sometimes it can challenge, especially if you're still struggling and you have to pay a lot of money. However, what I know some universities in the US also, like I know friends who are actually beneficiaries of this, you could actually ask for waiver in terms of application fee, and they will be willing to help you sometimes. Why sometimes they'll tell you, oh no, we would not be able to offer you this. But again, you can just be strategic. I know some students who only apply to just one school and they got selected. So if you feel like, okay, I think application fee might be an issue, then you could actually like just target schools that you know that they have application fee waiver and go for it. So yeah, basically. Thank you.
Okay, listening. Like I like the fact that you said you did up to 10 and then you got like 5. So that means
Yeah,
you had to choose at the end where you wanted to do the
definitely,
PhD.
definitely, definitely.
So what did you consider to choose? Is it Prudence University as the place you want to study compared to other universities? So what are the factors you considered? Like now you have so much opportunity now, then you have to think where I'm going to.
Okay. Yeah, so Purdue University, yeah. When I actually got the admission, I was confused at some point on, the school, the exact school I would like to go for. Then when I reached out to one school, they told me that they didn't have funding. they gave me admission. Then they said, oh, sorry. And it was because of COVID. It was during COVID. They said COVID affected a lot of things. So I already knew that, okay, rule out the school. Then again, so the other three schools, then I actually reached out to my friends in the US because I really didn't know much about US then, like that, the system and all of that. So I reached out to my friends who were grad students, like, okay, so I got, these three offers, and I would like you to advise me on which to choose. So having actually so they all advised me, all of them advised me on Purdue University. And basically because they told me that one, the funding was actually like the best, and aside the funding, that it's actually like really well ranked. In fact, it was not until maybe my second semester, that was when I knew that my school was really well ranked in the US. I didn't know. My first semester was not in the US. I was not in the US. Then I started online. But when I came in second semester, love you. So you don't know Purdue, you don't know, oh, this kid is really one of, yeah. So I was like, oh, really? Okay. So I think some of them actually also thought about that, but I didn't really know. So ranking, okay, yeah. So sometimes it could be ranking, and sometimes maybe not necessarily general ranking. It could be ranking in the course of study you want to do. So some people also like watch out for that. Or it could even be some people may have a professor, perhaps not in a very well-ranked school, of course, maybe not the best school, so to say, but maybe the professor is really well known, or maybe someone like a Nobel laureate winner or something like that. And there's one thing, the professor or the advisor you're working with can actually pave a lot of ways for you. Whereby if you're applying for jobs or anything, once people see that person's name as a recommender, they will know that no, this person, we're giving it to this person. So those things. So there are various factors you may want to look out for. Some people may also want to look at, okay, the black community, how is the black community there? People have various reasons. So, but for me, basically, I just told friends, and based on funding, really, that was my major criteria then.
Okay, yes. So that brings us to the professor thing. So did you have to like contact any professor to like supervise you?
Okay, so this is like major piece of advice I give to people who are in the humanities like me. So for people in the humanities like me, I always advise them that most times we do not have to reach out to any professor. Most times, I wouldn't say maybe it's like 100%, but most times you don't have to. It's when you get to the school that's when they will assign you to a professor that you like to work with. I can always change that even later. But it's not like maybe unlike science. Science is like that because most times professor actually has a grant and he himself knows what he's actually looking out for in potential students. So you have to reach out to them. But for arts humanities, not like maybe the professor has a grant. It's like the department will be the one to like get you in, so you don't have to reach out to any professor basically in order to, yeah, for arts. Just do your application straight up and just do your thing. They will actually make the decision collectively, unlike sciences whereby a professor has a say because he's the one who has a grant and trying to get people in. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I know you're very big in networking, like you've done a lot of programs and you're approachable, which is very good. Like, so for those that have to like speak with professor, reach out to professor, like what strategies can you give to them? Just imagine it's you now, you're thinking of doing
Okay.
something in science.
Okay, yeah. So basically, what is very important for you to do is to check out the school. And one thing about schools in the US is that you always get a lot of information online. Or like Nigeria, whereby our website, you don't even know, even if I'm not even sure if I go to UI website today, I'm going to find anything really tangible on maybe Department of European Studies and even my professors or something like that. Maybe not. But schools abroad in the US, definitely you would definitely find like, a streamlined like the names of faculties and the research areas. So what you do is you have to do the job yourself. Go to the school website, then the department itself. Okay, then check the names of the professors, click on them, check them one by one, try to say, okay, this person is doing research on this. No, I'm not interested. This person, okay, this is okay, I like this person's research. And one thing is that you always find their email addresses there, the university official email addresses. And you can always reach out to them via email and just introduce yourself. Dear Professor, my name is, tell them your background, your qualification, and things like that. And okay, the fact that you're interested in working with them, and maybe perhaps you could also attach your CV. Yeah, that also works. And from there, you actually they can get back to you. So that's what they call cold emails. There are some, should I say, yeah, just try to sell yourself, so to say. There are some, how will I say it? I know there are a number of people online who actually have like templates for cold emails that you could actually like work on. For me, I never did cold emails because I never needed that. But a number of people who actually like, scholarship gurus on Twitter, they have like a lot of templates you can even go on Google that you could adopt, not copy and paste, that you could adopt and even change certain things for yourself and use. And yeah, so sometimes professors may get back to you, sometimes they won't get back to you. And that's harsh reality. Sometimes not everybody gets back to you, but you just have to keep trying. Try this school, try send many cold emails as much as you can. However, it's also advised that most times, especially if it's in the same school, it's not always advisable to send like maybe to different professors at the same time. Sometimes it may actually feel like maybe you're not really serious, you don't know what you're doing. So maybe perhaps different schools, or maybe, well, sometimes too, you could also be interested in research options, different research options that can work, but just be smart about it and know what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So you talked about like CV. I know that most times CV is required like to submit an
Yeah,
application. So
definitely.
sometimes it can be confusing because you've volunteered, you've done a lot of things, and sometimes they might say your CV should be 1 page or 2 page. Maybe you have
Yeah.
three, some people have 3 or 4 pages. So how do you think people can go about structuring their CV? That when someone sees that CV, they're like, this person wants to meet this person.
Okay, so talking about CV, for me, I'm not a CV expert, so to say, but like you said, I've actually found myself in such situations a lot of times. But sorry, it was never really for me during the application processes, they didn't give us any restrictions to the number of pages. It was just like some to your CV, and I think they had like a 3 page or 2 page CV. I really can't remember now, but now I have a 6 page CV, and with that, sometimes even I remember sometimes last year December I wanted to apply for an opportunity in my school, and the requirement was just 2 pages. And it was like, okay, what am I going to do? So what I just did was that I ensured that, and they actually gave pointers to the specific things they needed. So you could actually like just, what I did was that I was able to cut out certain things, maybe things I felt like they were not necessary, but things that were maybe more academic related. Maybe, okay, yes, my name, my education, publications, and things like that. While some other things that I felt like they were not so necessary, like maybe volunteering and all that, and I felt like they were actually taking a lot of spaces, I just kind of removed them. And sometimes just to play smart, or sometimes I reduce the font, sometimes to I do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know for PhD, they kind of like you talk about publication. I know that can be like a criteria. So
Mm.
what about someone who has never published before and is thinking of publishing? Like, how do you think they can start thinking through that process to start preparing, even though they're not applying this year, or start thinking for future purpose about publications, like where to publish, how to publish?
Mm. Oh, so talking about publications, it actually depends on what you want based on so let me just say this. Some schools are not necessarily big on publications if you're actually like, because they know that you're just like an early starter. But sometimes too, having publications also adds to your, so how they view you, and like how they feel like, yes, you are, because it's really an holistic process when it comes to application. Some people may be good in the area of publications, and another thing may not really be that strong. So just ensure that those your strengths, areas of strengths, you actually like, bring it to the fore and ensure that, yes, this, I know that I have this, so yes, this is me and I'm strong in this. So basically, if you're interested and you want to work on publications, another thing is that you try to check out for publication publishers in your area and your field, especially reputable journals in your area, and try to watch out for them and start working towards publishing, like, articles, especially like topics that have, contemporary relevance in your field, and start thinking of how you want to do that. And if you feel like maybe you might still be struggling or something like that, there's always room for collaboration. Some people collaborate with professors in their area, in their fields, even their supervisors or things like that, or even friends, and you can come together. Of course, that synergy and come up with something strong, and yeah, and start working towards writing something. Then for journals, you can also reach out to them on when they will start, like maybe their call for applications and things like that. And yeah, and that works. And from there gradually starts you start having your own compilation of published articles in the academia. Yeah.
Okay, what about referencing? Because I know schools normally require when you submit application to bring references. So what will you say about referencing?
So, oh yeah, this is very, very interesting. Referencing can be very, very challenging. I remember during my own time, yeah, I even had to apply to 10 schools. So you can imagine I needed like close to 30 reference letters because all the schools needed at least three. In fact, that was the standard, three recommendation letters. So what I did was that I remember then it was really that stage of trying to just be strategic. So I remember I listed out all the names of the universities. Then what I did was that. So for me, I had my first degree in University of, like, Obafemi University, Ile-Ife. Second degree was in University of Ibadan. Then I served in University of Ilorin. So I had access to professors in three different universities. So what I did was that I spread everything out. So maybe a professor, and I knew quite a number of professors. So I could tell a professor to like work on maybe three universities or four universities. So I spread them across that way. So that way it was easy for me. So another thing they always advise people to, like, when you're in the university, try to build a good relationship with your professors so that when it's time for you to also get a recommendation letter, it will be easy. Although for me, not like I was pretty an introvert when I was in the university, not like I was really like, close to my professors. However, because I was an intelligent student, they liked me and all that. So it was easy for them to really recommend me then. And it was kind of, yeah, it was quite a walk in the path for me getting reference letters. Although at the beginning I felt overwhelmed. 30 recommendation letters. But at some point I just felt like, oh, you needed to do this. So I calmed down, kind of strategized. Then I spread everything across all the three universities I've been to, across different professors, and that was what I did basically.
Okay. So is it necessary that it has to be a professor? Some people will say, if you use professor, it's more better than using a doctor or just, what do you think about that?
Well, I understand this and that sentiment of professor, this thing. But for me, I use more of doctors than professors. Professors I use were just, I think, maybe just two of them or so, but they were more of doctors. And as long as a person can actually speak for you, because yeah, that's also very important. Because, and I noticed that some people today, maybe the professor just sends something and just sends them something that is not really like valuable. So it's also good, although sometimes too, it happens that most times you don't see what the person has written about you. That's something sometimes too. However, for some will tell you to write what you want themselves and yourself rather. Then they will actually go through it to check, like, okay, is this good enough, or something like that. So ensure that you also talk to someone who the person can really speak for you very well. It doesn't matter if the person is a doctor or a professor. A doctor can even write something much more like very, very valuable than maybe what a professor that does not necessarily know you will write. So just ensure that the person can speak for you. I think that's the most important thing in my opinion. And I think, yeah, that's it. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But then another thing I would say is that sometimes too, these things also, like, maybe perhaps that you're applying to university and that you have a particular professor that might have done some collaborations with that university or that department in the past. So, some names actually carry weight, really. And maybe you feel like if that particular professor's name is on your list of recommenders, you know that will pave way for you. Of course, you can be strategic about it and ensure that that professor, this man should recommend me. Yeah, that's also another thing.
Okay, that's good. Uh, so so all your application, I noticed you did them in US. Why were you just like US? I mean, there are other places in the world you should have applied to. Why did you?
Okay, so it was not only in the US. I applied to 7 schools in the US, then 3 schools in Canada. And the reason why I felt I chose US was because the first orientation I had was US. Then US and Canada have similar application procedures. For UK, I wanted to try UK too, but when I was actually looking out for a lot of schools in the UK, most of them were not fully funded. US has a lot, that's one thing. US has a lot of funding for PhD. US has a lot of funding, unlike maybe UK. Yeah, I know UK not really, but US has a lot of funding. So and Canada too has funding. But so that was why I felt like, oh, UK funding, okay, no, I don't think I would. So US for me and Canada, I felt like yes, I could go for these places. And some people would also ask me sometimes, oh, you're studying French, why not France too? But then the thing is that when I was also looking out for studying in France, I noticed that the process seemed quite complicated. Maybe the idea that you will have to like start looking for scholarship on your own. Or like here US, once you know that you're applying, most times, once you know that you're applying for your program, it comes with automatic funding. Not always, but most times, especially for PhD. So I knew that okay, that was easy. But like France, I was told okay, even when you get the admission, you have to like you know, try to get your what's it called now? You have to get the funding for yourself. You have to. So for me, I just felt like I didn't really just see to the whole processes involved and how complicated it was. And a lot of people I even reached out to then. Everything was not so clear to me. But US seemed so clear. I had a lot of people who guided me through the processes, and I just felt like okay. US and Canada too. One school offered me admission in Canada, but they didn't have funding. So yeah, so US, Canada for me, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so someone is asking about the email. You know, to be legit, they normally say you have to use the institutional email.
Yeah.
So does it matter? Because I know some universities, maybe their email is not working, or some lecturers, they're just like, let me use my normal email, things like that. So do you think it has to be from .edu the university?
Okay, so for this, I think it actually depends. I think when I applied then, there were some of my professors who actually used their personal email because the universities I was applying to then didn't really specify, they didn't really care. However, some universities actually were big on that. So those are the things I also watched out for. Like, okay, this university, I told my professors like, okay, do you have like, university like an email address? And some were like, yes. So I also told them that it had to be through the university email addresses. So it depends. Sometimes if you feel like if the school is not so specific, maybe you may not really be too big on that. But if they specify, please ensure that it's from the university email address. During my own time, some did, some didn't. So it's a matter of okay, what they wanted and all that. But I understand that even in Nigeria, some professors do not even really use their university email addresses, unlike here in the US, whereby it's actually a thing. So it's also yeah. So just try to ask them, okay, yeah, if do they have email address? Yeah, just may present it when you're actually like requesting for the recommendation letters from them, and yeah, and that will work basically. Yeah, and I know some people actually do certain things and maybe they don't trust, whereby they will just create some email. I've heard a lot of things about these references, and yeah, I know why people do that, but it's not ethical. They do that because they just needed recommendations, and that was it for them. So they would just tell, oh, just create email address, send it to the person, and all that, and that's what they do. Yeah, but then yeah, it depends. Yeah.
Okay, so just curious, like you said you did French for BSc and then for your PhD you're doing French literature. So in the first place, why did you decide to study French? And even at master's and PhD, you could have switched to something else. So why are you still revolved around French?
Okay, so for me, I love languages generally, and that's why I decided to study French right from. I did French in my WASC, NEPO, UTME, post UTME. Yeah, then so it was something I chose. And because I chose it right from my undergrad level, it was something I wanted. So I just went for it. Unlike with some people, a number of people in my class then they were given the course. Let me just put it that way, not like they wanted it. So for some people, first year they were not so serious. So and they kept trying UTME, but nothing worked out. So maybe during that third year they decided to be serious and then it was too late. But for me, it was actually like I wanted this and went for it. Then for my master's, so for me it was just like, okay, yeah, I did this for my first degree. So for my master's, why not? So I went for it. But I remember at some point during my for my what's it called for my PhD, I was thinking of maybe perhaps switching at some point. But and I told someone, but the person discouraged me, or the out people discouraged me like, okay, that most times they were just looking at it from the tourism, they were in the academia and they were just looking at it from the perspective of okay, they've seen situations whereby during interview processes from their own personal experiences, whereby if people are not really like if maybe perhaps those things the course you study is not like it's not aligning like that that might actually like stand against you when you want to be a professor in a university, that they want you to be that consistency in the course you study, that actually works a lot. So that was I just felt like okay, oh, let me just go for that. And again, I still find my passion in what I'm doing. Like I always say, a lot of people just they don't understand, oh, you're doing French literature, gender, how does it really relate? So for me, so we all know how literature works. Literature is, mirror of life, studying novels and all that. I mean, I streamline my research in such a way that all the novels, all the documentaries, music videos, plays, anything I will analyze as a literature student, they always have to involve like, the plight of women, what women face, gender issues. So for me, it's still like finding my passion in what I'm doing, basically. Yeah.
Okay, Rosalie. But what about, someone like maybe I know you're so young and you're one of the ladies I admire. I'm like, Rosalind, how does she do everything she do at this young age, the drive, the passion? So, but there are some people that after undergrad, it took some time. Like me, I took a lot of time before I even started doing my master's because I was trying to switch fields. But you didn't have to switch fields. And
Yeah.
then from again master's, I know you didn't spend so much time. You went to do your PhD. So what about
Yeah.
someone that had a lot of gap, like maybe 5 years ago, 10 years, and then they're thinking of doing PhD? Do you think that's going to stand against them for them not to like get any opportunity when be fully funded because this person, it's been long you've been in the academia, are we sure you can cope? What do you think?
So what I would say is that it does not matter. I have a number of people in my school who had worked like some more than 7 years ago, and they're in my school like quite elderly, and they're doing their PhD. Yeah, it's everything depends on how you actually work on your application. Just ensure you stand out in how you present your application, get help, talk to people. Most of these people are in the sciences, and like I said, I may not be able to speak to how things work in the sciences, like how we do in the humanities. Most of the people in the humanities are pretty much young people like me. But in the sciences, I know I see a lot of people, but I think everything is just trying to present that okay, yes, I stand out. And even that, even though you have some gaps, you still like try to convince them that you're still like strong enough to be in the program and things like that. Although sometimes I realize that it could be quite challenging because I remember I was part of a discussion group and they were talking about a woman who wanted to like come to the US for her PhD, and she had been in kind of sector in Nigeria, and it had been, and so people were trying to like maybe perhaps advise her. And for her, really, in all honesty, it was not as if she was coming to the US because she really loved academia. She was coming because of JAPA purpose. And because of JAPA purpose, people say, if you're coming because of JAPA purpose and you just say you want to delve into PhD of 5 years, if you're not careful, you may get frustrated. Even me myself, as I am, a lot of people may see that, yeah, I win this award, I do this, I do that, I see, oh, things are not always rosy. In my program, sometimes there are days that I actually feel like I don't know what I'm doing. There are days I feel like, why am I here? There are days that some people just, oh, maybe life seems no, not at all. In fact, right now I'm still battling with certain things. Sometimes you just, you just have some issues with you just feel like what PhD can be very, very crazy. And I experience that a lot. There are days I just feel so overwhelmed. I just feel like I don't even know what to do and all that. So imagine if you, and for me, this is happening to me because, and this is happening to me. And for me, it's like I came to the US purposefully because I wanted a PhD. I wanted to really study, not because of JAPA in that sense. I just wanted is wanted that, international certificate and, coming to the US. Not like, okay, JAPA. JAPA was not even really a thing when I even like came. So just, so now imagine me still struggling. Now someone who is coming because of Jackpot purpose. So people advise the person that, if you're really coming for Jackpot, maybe just do masters, JJ. Then when you do that masters, you can now try to try as much as possible to get a job that can make you stay. Maybe that can work. Because yeah, so that's just the, shall I say, I just wanted to add that nuance to that. But if maybe person like, yeah, PhD straight up, I want to do, just ensure that you sell yourself very well and see. And sometimes some of these people too, another thing is that some people know that they don't necessarily want to do academia and they want to be in the industry. So they may have industry experience and you can also sell that as, you know, one thing you have that can actually make you better, that you can sell that as one of your strong points, so to say. Maybe you're working in, you want to do, and maybe the industry experience you have we actually equip you for your research, and maybe you've been doing this industry job for like 5 years, 6 years. Of course they'll know that this person is well equipped for what we want to do. But if it's for jackpot purpose, sometimes some people are like, just go and do masters. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I understand because even me doing masters, there are some days I'm like, I don't want to use the word like regret. I'm like, I don't think I should be like, it's so overwhelming and draining. Talk more of, I understand what you're saying. People always see and they're like, oh, everything is fine, not knowing your
Exactly.
like your mental health is at stake. Yeah, I understand that. So why did you decide to do a PhD, Rosie? Yeah, because
Okay, so for me, my my major decision for PhD actually came right from, so when I was in primary school, my dad was in his PhD then. As a little girl, I saw my dad, doing his PhD, and that actually like gave me that insight. Like, so then I think there's just something about your background, how you grew up, and things like that. Those things actually affect how you see your perception about life. So as a little young girl in primary school, I saw that, oh, my dad was always reading, was doing a PhD. So for me, it was just like, okay, so when you're done primary school, secondary school, first degree, master's, PhD. So I started losing that thought of, okay, yes, I'll do my PhD. But I remember then during my first degree, then it was just more like, oh, I saw what I saw my dad did. So I would just tell people, oh, first degree, master's, PhD, and that was it for me. But I remember during my first degree, when I told friends, then I would do my, they would just make jest of me, like, oh, do you like book? Or even as a woman, too, some people just felt like, like, don't go and marry, things like that. Yeah. So for me, I think it was just more like what I saw my dad. Then later on, after my first degree masters, I started noticing my, academic trajectory. Like, okay, I was good at what I was doing, and I didn't really mind like, okay, doing a PhD, and I love reading, yeah, basically. So I just felt like, okay, I could do that, yeah.
yeah, thank you, Rosalind. So for you, did you have to do like an interview? Sometimes program require that you do interviews for them to like meet you. Did you do any interview?
Yeah, I know that's actually a thing, and some people actually reach out to me, but most times I just tell them I didn't experience that. I didn't do any interview. But for some people who had to do interviews, I know basically sometimes they want to get to know you, your research, your skills, and it's like you're pitching yourself, against others. They want to select the best, basically. So it's just more of getting to know how you can sell yourself. But I personally, when they reach out to me, most times I just tell them to reach out to people who have the experience, because I didn't really experience the interview process. It was just more of applying to schools, and I got a feedback from the universities. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know, Rosalind, you've done a lot of fellowship and things like that. Some of them would have
Yeah,
required interview. So just
definitely.
imagine, so just give like tips, like if you had to do an interview, what do you think someone should? prepare for?
So for me, basically, it's when it comes to giving tips, sometimes I feel like I'm always very like for me, I just go there and say what I have to say really. Yeah, for me, what I would just I think first thing could be like reaching out to maybe grad students in the universities there, grad students. You can reach out, they always have their email addresses in the school. You can always reach out to them and just give them ask them, okay, what are the tips, what do you think, and all that. And sometimes some interviews are not even really that serious. The professor just wants to meet you basically. Then okay, once the professor wants to know, okay, your skills, why you want to like go for that program. Then they want to know, okay, why, okay, is this person a fit for us, the right fit for us? They ask a lot of questions. So it's just about, and some of the things, and now there's this consciousness that for some people, when it comes to their written, what's it called, what they wrote, they may actually sell it in a very big way, but they are not really what they are trying to portray. So it's also another way of actually trying to convince them that what is here, I actually like wrote it and I can speak to this myself. I did this. Then you can tell them like, okay, yes, I did this, I had this, and just to explain to them like why you feel like you're a very good fit. And again, and this is one of the things I think a lot of people actually complain about me, especially for some of my friends who read my applications. They always tell me that I'm always very modest in terms of how I present my application. And it's something I should work on. Like, oh, Bruce, like they read my application, Bruce, why are you modest? No, try to, blow your trumpet. You actually, competing with a lot of people. So during the interview process, it's also another opportunity for you to say a lot of things about yourself that I feel like they will actually like make them believe that yes, I want you here. Yeah, basically. But like I said, when it comes to tips, it's always very I just go there, tell them why I feel like okay, yes, I'm actually a bright fit and sell myself, talk about my profile, what I've done and things like that.
Okay, Roslyn, so you've been in the US for a while now. So what advice would you give to someone who is thinking of like to make up their choice? Maybe they also have other choices of other countries. So what has been your experience of living in the US? Do you think is a place that other students should come to? Is the environment friendly? The weather, the cost of living, social life? So could you share your experience there?
Yeah, talking about social life, that one can be quite relative. Life here is boring. If I have to be sincere, life is boring here. But I think basically, if you live in Nigeria, I kind of feel like life is still boring. So, yeah, I would still feel like yeah, life is still be boring because really, in the real sense of it, life abroad is not really, it's different from back home, whereby there's that community, communalism. Yeah, it's more like individualism, all man for himself. So it's totally different. So that's something. However, you still find your community, and that's why yeah, I found my whole Nigerian community, and that has actually been very good for me. Then the weather, of course, there is winter, but of course you just fit up and dress well and everything. Of course, I would definitely recommend US. US has a lot of funding opportunities, a lot, and it's also a country whereby you can really thrive. You can thrive in the US. Even after school, there are a lot of job opportunities in the US, even much more than Canada. There are a lot of people who actually work in Canada but live in they work in the US but live in Canada. Yeah, a number of people do that, so they commit. So US has, when it comes to job opportunities, you can really thrive in the US. That's one thing. Then the weather is good, a lot of things. The only challenge could be like for people who plan to maybe have their what's it called, PR. For Canada, Canada's PR is still quite it has an easy path compared to the US. However, people still work towards getting their what's it called now, their PR in the US, even as grad students, their pathways to it. Yeah, but I would definitely advise you. It's been fine so far. Another thing is just that sometimes it can be challenging because the Nigerian system, educational system, is different from the American educational system. So you may need to do a lot of personal work in order to catch up with their expectations. That's something.
Okay, thank you, Roslyn, for sharing so much. So, what are your future plans and aspiration post PhD or even within PhD?
Okay, yeah. So before I say that, there's something I would like to say just based on my experience as humanities. So for people here who might be maybe listening to me who may be in the humanities, I always advise people that if you're in the humanities, you have extra work to do if you're applying for scholarships. Because a number of people reach out to me in the sciences, and most times I may not be able to really advise them. Of course, I can say something, but maybe being specific. But I always like to guide people in the humanities because that's like my area, so to say. I always advise people in the humanities that if you want to apply for scholarship opportunities, try as much as possible. You just know that you have to do the work yourself. For people in the sciences, they see opportunities everywhere. Even on Twitter, WhatsApp, you see, okay, and masters in computer science, masters in this, that. But you I didn't realize anything, masters, PhD in French anywhere, or maybe in English, or maybe communication, media arts, or something like that. And if you know that you are in the arts or social sciences, you will need to do the work yourself. And it's more of like, okay, okay, I want to come to the US, go to the US, which universities are in the US? Then you type, okay, PhD, that was what I did during my time. PhD in French Literature, University of New York or New York University. PhD French University of so. PhD. So I started, like, I checked up to 150 schools when I was applying. I remember then I had a jotter or a big note. I wrote out the names of all the universities I was checking out for. So then I knew I didn't want to write GRE. I just felt that was a lot for me. And the mathematics aspect, I heard that it was difficult. And for me, I wasn't so good with mathematics, at mathematics. So I just, so once I checked the school and I know that, okay, it seems like the what's it called, the qualifications were not really what the requirements. I wasn't really cool with that. I would just strike that off my list. Then I was doing that one by one. So for those in the arts, please, as much as possible, you have to do the work yourself. You can't compare yourself to people in the sciences. You can't really. So just do the work. Then talking about my plans in the PhD program, I wouldn't say just to keep doing what I'm doing as a student, being exceptional as a student. Yeah, basically. Yeah, then post PhD plans for me would be working in a reputable organization. Academia could be like what I could explore, or maybe I was working in an organization like an international organization. That's also another possibility for me. Yeah.
Interesting. Roslyn, I know like you do a lot of things, like I say. Like, how do you get that strength? And for someone who is like, no, something about you because you're so young. I'm like, this girl, ha. In fact, she will come and mentor me and coach me. Like, so Roslyn, how would you advise like somebody like who is in a place of confusion or wants to like start up an initiative? I know like you don't really have an organization, but you're very vocal. We know that Roslyn, she's very vocal on this, which is like a very good personal brand. So how do you think that people can start tying up their passion so that even when they want to apply for things in the future, not now, but they know that, oh, my brand can speak for me. Like you said, you had a blog to show. So I'm sure when those people see your blog, they're like, it's Roslyn we want. We don't want someone else. So how do you think in terms of someone who wants to work in international development, first of all, where do you get this energy from, this drive? So how do you think they can also like, yes, they can also like build their brand, their passion, and do a lot of things? Because you do a lot of things. So I admire you a lot. I
Wait, before I respond, why do you think I do a lot?
mean, you're really making impact. A lot, not that you're doing irrelevant things. Like you make a lot. I'm like, she's doing this for this, that. You're trying.
Oh my God. Yeah, so I know I get to hear that from time to time, but for me, I'm like, okay, other people are doing what I'm doing too. So yeah, so that like I said, volunteering activities are actually like ways through which you can actually bring yourself to the fore and tie what you're doing. Like there are ways you could tie quite a number of things. Maybe for some things, maybe not so directly, but for some things, there are ways you could tie. Like I said, okay, like international development now, gender advocacy. You want to apply into something like gender studies. You even telling them about some of the gender activities, some of even like international organizations that you've been part of, and they will know that no, this person is exceptional. This person knows what she is doing. Or you want to apply for something maybe environmental engineering or something like that, and you're already doing something around climate change, maybe you have an initiative that can actually like speak for you. And not everybody, that's what I always say, you don't have to have, it's not everybody that will have organization in this life. That's it. But you can always volunteer for an organization. And I know that these days the PR for volunteering is actually very high, in which a number of people they'll just join one organization, but they're not so active. For me, when I joined an internet and what's it called, voluntary organization that was during my masters, I ensured that I was very active. And within months, I was even made the coordinator for the whole state. So don't just be there as figurehead, because even if you want to tell your story, if you've not done much, even yourself, you just be concocting lies, and you know that nah, this does not work. So you just have to like say, yes, I did this, and yes, yeah. So it might not necessarily, you might actually just it might just be in the area of like volunteering or other things. It may not necessarily be volunteering. It could even be like maybe in terms of maybe your work to what you're doing and tying it to that. Like, okay, I am exceptional in the work, my work, and maybe some people have job experience that will actually speak for them. So when they want to apply for any opportunity, and that can definitely work for them. So yeah, it's all about being strategic. Intentional development is wide. For some people, it could also be maybe something around health, and they may have an initiative that does something around health, or even volunteering for an organization that does something around health. And they can weave their story into like, okay, yes, the future, and put that up in their own application. Yeah.
Mm, thank you, Christina, for the kind words. So if you're getting value, you like the video and you subscribe to the channel. So Roslyn, again, I want to
Yeah.
ask, like you talked about international opportunity. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
people aspire to like get scholarship or go for a fellowship, like
Yeah.
to increase your brand. So where do you think people can search for opportunities to like apply? Because I know you're always in one thing or the other. So I'll ask you
Yeah, so for me, like I said, I'm a serial applicant. I know myself. I sometimes my friends will see me on my laptop and they say, Rose, what are you doing? I'm applying for something. My friend, one of my one day my friend like, it's every time you they apply for something. You apply for things a lot. Like, how will I do now? Yeah, so for me, I get most of them on opportunitydesk.org, then opportunitiesforafricans.com. There are a lot, but those two I feel like you can't, like, you get major opportunities there. And you know, one thing I always tell, especially like years ago, these days I think I've even relaxed when it comes to applying to opportunities, because most times when I see opportunities, by the time I even see the date or something like that, I'll just know that you cannot go. Why? You're in school. And I'm teaching students. It's very difficult for me to take permission. In fact, sometimes, if you are sick, you still have to, like, it's really, sometimes if I'm sick, I'll still go to school, I'll teach, because I can't really just say I don't want to teach. Or maybe in Nigeria that maybe you have people that you're answerable to some people. So I can't just say I want to start traveling anyhow now as that I'm a student. So that's why now when I see opportunities, I don't really apply for them because I'm a grad student. I'm always strategic. Maybe if I thought I want to go for something, maybe during summer, or maybe just once. I've never, it has never happened before. And even sometimes when I'm even begging someone to even like fill in for me, there were days that I could not get someone. So I try to accept maybe opportunity I know that I can just, find a way around. So I these days not really. But before, when I used to, I check opportunities the way I check my WhatsApp. That was what I would used to do then. You check your WhatsApp or social media pretty much every time, like, okay, what's up? But then I remember at least every day, at least once in a day, I would check opportunity desk, opportunities for Africa, what's called, like, what's happening here? Or let's see, apply. Then every week, at least 5 opportunities every week. And before you know it, when I do 5 opportunities every week, of course I'll get one now. But then I remember when I started, I would do 5 every day, but nothing. For a whole year, nothing. I didn't get anything. Because then I didn't really know how to really write convincingly well to be able to like get those opportunities. But eventually later when I when I started getting some of those, I started knowing what they were actually like watching out for, and I started getting better. So those two websites. Then aside that, for me, I belong to some networks whereby there's some opportunities that they call them private opportunities, whereby they wouldn't put it out to the general public. They would just say based on your own, like, yeah, in this caucus. So let's just put this opportunity there. So, and that's also a place of, building of what I've done over the years, and the fact that, okay, you've done this, okay, you belong to this circle. So they'll post some opportunities there whereby not everybody will be able to have access to. So that works for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I understand. But that brings me to the place of question someone asks, because talk about application. So someone is
Mm.
asking like what makes a standard statement of purpose, or in terms of aside statement of purpose for university, you also tie it to like, in applying for these opportunities. You're not the only one applying. So how do you structure your essays, your application to make you an outstanding candidate? Yes.
Okay, so for the SOP, I don't know if the person joined us when I mentioned structures for SOP. So if the person just maybe perhaps joined later, that person can have a replay of this video, because I know I actually like talked extensively on how to stand out when it comes to how you want to structure your SOP. But when it comes to structuring like applications, so I actually judge applications from time to time. And the last one I did, I was so disappointed. I judged 25 applications and I could barely get five good. You know that sometimes you say, okay, like I could barely get five. I was so disappointed. Like, so one thing I noticed was that some people, it was just as if they just saw that, oh, there's this, there's this opportunity somewhere, or let's just apply. Like one thing, so for me, this is a personal bias actually, but it doesn't mean maybe that could be. So for example, they are telling you to write an essay, and they're telling you that okay, this essay maximum of, let's say, 300 words. Why some people, I'll see them 100 words, that's what they write.
Yeah, exactly. Even some 50 words.
Yeah, I know that they are saying that. Yes, I'm coming off my battery. Oh, I need to charge my laptop. Please give me uh, a minute, please.
Okay, that's fine. Now I understand, because there's some application I see and they're like in 50 words. I'm like, really? In 50 words? How do you want me to say everything I have to say? But you just have to stick to the word count.
Yeah, exactly. So try to see, but then I'll see some applications. I saw 300 words. You're writing 1,500 words. Imagine, of course, some people will say quality over quantity. But imagine if there are two people and maybe I'm writing 50 words. It's quality enough, and there's someone else, maybe like 150, or maybe person wrote like, let's say, 200 words, and quality checked, quantity checked. Who do you think they will choose? So at the end of the day, me, I have it's just a personal bias personally though. If an application says 300 words, I ensure that the maximum of 300 words, I ensure that my number of words is between 290 to 300. That's like a standard for me. Once it's even less than 290, I feel bad, like, no, no. Mm-hmm. So for me, 290 to 300 words. Yeah, so that's it for me. So I noticed a lot of people just have 50 words, 100 words. I'm waiting now. No. Then another thing a lot of people make, the mistake a lot of people make, application is actually very holistic. So most times applications will tell you that, please write a recommendation letter. I remember, was it not 3 weeks ago, one of my girls reached out to me for a recommendation letter. And at that point in my life, I was so busy. I just thought that, okay, if you could write it yourself, I could just put it in the letterhead or just make some adjustments and work on that. And by the time she got back to me on what she wrote, the number of words, she only wrote 2 sentences. And it was a point in my life whereby I was so busy, I just could not, I just told her that. But eventually I didn't even do it for her because it was already late. So was it not last week I called her because I've been busy. It has been a very busy semester for me. We just got on break. So I sent her a voice note. I was like, yeah, I wanted to say something. So I told you to do this. You only sent me 2 sentences. It is not done that way. People will always say that your competition is not local, it is global. You're not just competing with fellow Nigerians. Even competing with fellow Nigerians alone is competitive. Nigerians have bad. I fear Nigerians. So fear who no fear Nigerians. Nigerians have strong profiles. Not to talk of now, And when it comes to application, even at the global stage, sometimes for some applications they'll just say, we only need one Nigerian for this opportunity, or just 2 Nigerians. So that means they're choosing the best of the best of the best Nigerians for that opportunity. So you can't afford to slack. Now, sometimes when it comes to recommendation, she just wrote 2 sentences. I told her, no, that won't cut it. Let the person speak for you, for your work. The person should actually go into details like that. Very, very important. Aside that, some people will just like put a recommendation letter and just they will just write it, no letterhead, no structure. most times I'm always very strategic about recommendation letters. Like I once worked with African Union. Sometimes for some of my applications, I will ensure that one of the staffs in African Union, make sure you write this recommendation letter for me. Or my professor, maybe dean of students, this thing my school, please write this recommendation letter for me. That's how hard I go. So imagine someone saying, or maybe you have a link with United Nations and there's a staff there that can write something for you, and maybe compare that person to someone who just write like an application letter and a recommendation letter and maybe no letterhead. You don't even know the organization the person is coming from. Just a paper like that, just wishy-washy. No. So those things, in fact, some even have like a particular point for recommendation letters for some of these applications. So you can so ensure that for recommendation letters, you are getting recommendations from the best of the best. Like you know that yes, you're putting your so very, very important. Even for graduate school application, on Twitter, here and there, I see especially people who actually like they're into scholarships and all that. They complain lot, a lot of times about people who just they see recommendation letters from that very, very whack recommendation letters, and they can stand against you. Another thing some people do, sometimes I understand Nigerian professors can be very busy, which I actually understand, and maybe they're just a lot of issues. So some professors will say, okay, write the recommendation letter yourself. Some will now write the same recommendation letter to 3 professors. Imagine writing the same thing. So those are little things. Even if you want to write it, make it at least let it be different. And you should actually so recommendation letter is a big deal. It's a very big deal. It actually shows, everything is an holistic thing, statement of purpose, writing sample, recommendation letter, everything is very, very important. So yeah, even beyond even academic, even applications generally, these are the things I actually notice that people do. Yeah, the output of what they write, 300 maximum words, you're writing 150. Recommendation letter, no letterhead, this thing. Then also, I remember there was one application I did, attach a video. The person didn't attach any video. I'll be like, waiting. Another person attach a video, quite all right. Some will actually include their Instagram like link. So I could actually easily check. And of course, the instruction was I could even use Instagram link. Some, their Instagram is on private and you're sharing your Instagram link with me. How will I check the video? Like I was just like, how now? How? So these are things that people like. I saw a lot of things, and sometimes it was like as I was grading the application that day, it was paining me. Like, but sometimes I know that it's not like some people don't want to get better. They just like for me too. I know that I made some mistakes too when I was applying for things, but I got better. I learned well, and all. So sometimes it's like I should just gather them together to like give them like okay, to instruct them like this is how you do, this is what you don't do when you want to apply for applications. Everything like when I'm applying for something, it's like I'm competing with this person, this person. So what will I do in order to say, I know it's Rosalind that wants. So it's one of those things. So just put your best foot forward when it comes to applying for things. Like I go all out. Let me just put that way. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Rosalie, for those tips. I mean, if what I tell people is that if you have content, you will be the one that 300 words will not be enough. If someone has given you 300 word limit, you're writing 100, just know you're going down because they're like,
Exactly.
oh, we gave it 300 because we don't want to read 1,000 words of so many things
Oh,
you've
so
done.
many things. Yeah.
Always use the word counts to the limit. And something about accounts is true. Yeah, you're applying for opportunities. Now, and most days, people go to your social media to check. I know some people want to have a private account. You don't want people to know what's happening in your life. What I suggest is have 2 accounts. Have your private ones and the things you want to be doing there with some set of people, and have a public profile that if someone Google you, they can check through. Because most of the account is private. Nobody has time to start following you to look. They're just like, please, we have other applications to reach. So
Exactly.
put yourself in a disadvantage. And even about referencing, you see why branding is important. Don't submit something on an empty paper. Logo, put logo. Let them see logo. And I love the content that, yeah, you have so many organizations you could use, but you went for proficient one. Like, I mean, someone sees reference from African Union, you're already flying. Person is thinking, if she can work at this stage. So try to like use things that will stand you out. Even for my scholarship application, all my reference was 2 page. 2 page each. They could have written more. So I mean, if people know a lot about you, they will want to like write more. So stop selling yourself short. Even when your professors write little things, tell them, please, it must be more than 1 page, except they give you like
I
a
do that.
yeah, except they give you a limit that it should just be like this particular
Page.
number. Yeah, that's true. So thank you, Rosalie, for that. Then also I wanted to ask about network, because I remember you saying there were some opportunities that is only within network. I understand, because I'm also in some network and you must see those opportunities outside. So how can people start building, their network to like tap into these places? Because I know you too, you're a very powerful man, you have network, you love networking. So some people are introvert, like you said, you're a strong introvert. So it doesn't mean you have to be an extrovert to network. I tell people do. So how can people like come out from their shell to start growing relevant networks? Yes.
Yeah, definitely, because you can actually be strong in your introversion actually. So for me, talking about networking, like I say, it's a process of applying for opportunities. And when I apply for some opportunities, they'll create a group. Okay, we all went to this fellowship. Oh yeah, let's create a group of everybody who went to this fellowship. And sometimes some of this fellowship they're mounted, so to say. They have access to bigger platforms. So when sometimes bigger platforms reach out to them like, okay, we know you have this network. Can you get someone or people from your network to be part of? Sometimes they may not even reach out to everybody on the group. It happens. They will just say recommend 1 or 2 people. So they will be the ones. They will be the ones to actually like recommend the active people in that group. Or sometimes they will just share, and they will tell you do not share to the public, and that's what they do. So it takes like going for a number of programs and also like building. It's not something that you can do in a day. You attend this program, you form that network, another program, then there and there you start building, the network. Then another thing I do, I reach out to people a lot though. That's very important. Like there's a platform I'm part of right now. I sent them. They actually like at some point they had like what's it called a web what's it called call for applications if you want to be part of the network. I did that. Nobody reached out to me for like maybe 6 months. Nobody reached out to me, and that was a very big platform. So what I did was that later I got to discover the person that was in charge, the coordinator of this thing, and I sent her a message on Instagram. My name is this is what I've done, and I would like to be part of this. And immediately she was like, "Oh, no problem. I'll have you," and that was it. So sometimes you have to do the work yourself. Maybe you're interested in a particular network and you want to be there. I send them an email. I want to be part of this network because you know that network, and if you're there, it will help your life. So sometimes I do that. So I reach out to people like I want to be part of this. Yeah. So that works for me.
Okay, that's good. But what about, it's not about networking. People think it's about doing so much, going to so many programs, knowing so many people. But in terms of like keeping up with that relationship, so how are you able to like manage? I know you have a broad network, like to manage people within your network, like to keep up that relationship. It's not like, oh, I just grabbed this opportunity and I'm off.
Okay, so for me, so even most times, most opportunities I've been to, usually I'm actually the most reserved in the room. That's what people don't know. In fact, a lot of people, when they see that, okay, they saw this lady at this conference, she's reserved, and they see what I do on social media, they'll be like, she the one, she the one. So I can be very reserved. I always tell people I'm an introvert. But on social media, you won't see me as an introvert because I do. So I know that I write and I found my, should I say, extroversion, so to say, in writing. So that I know that yes, I'm very good at. I put it out there. And when people see what I do, a lot of people want to like, connect with me. So let me say most times, even the networking I tend to be very good at. It's more of people I do that, and a lot of people like move closer to me as a result of what I'm doing. It's not like most times me reaching out to people is yes, I do that too, but it's still not. It's even when it comes to networking. Yeah, you say I'm very good at networking, but I'm still also trying to like find my should I say strength in networking. I still have some things I face like I struggle. I still struggle with networking in a way. But then the thing is, because of what I do, some people come, they come closer to me, reach out to me. Then from there, okay, I have that large network. Then because I'm very active on social media, so that also like helped me in terms of having that kind of strong or large network. That has also helped me. Then I think I wanted to say something about networking. Then this is actually just me personally. it may not even necessarily like networking for maybe like even like maybe professionally, like even my friends in my personal life. I have a kind of rule or maybe like habit or so to say. I have more than 1,000 contacts on my WhatsApp. And sometimes I just feel somehow like, why will I have over 1,000 contacts and I won't be able to reach out to some of these people? So I ensure that maybe once in like 4 or 5 months, I reach out to everybody on my WhatsApp. I just send them a message, how are you doing? Hope you're fine. Just to check up on you or something like that. I do that every day. Then another thing I do is I just ensure that during people I know or maybe or yeah, I try to reach out to them on their birthdays to just like wish them or something like that. I ensure I do that. So from there, people start noticing you. Some people are, ah, Rose, you always send me birthdays every year, birthday messages every year, or something like that. And through that, you start from me. Then be approachable. You said I'm approachable. For some reasons, I heard that I hear that a lot. I remember one person like this is related to this grad school discussion we're actually talking about. She wanted to reach out to me on LinkedIn. So you know, LinkedIn, if you are not following the person, the message might not go through. So it was not going through. So she was telling her friend that that she doesn't even know how to contact me, blah blah blah, stuff like that. So stuff like that. So eventually the person that was advising her to reach out to me was like, I beg, the person was like, I beg, leave LinkedIn alone. Reach out to her on Facebook. She will reply you. She will reply. I was just laughing like, okay. So the person had in mind, I know she's approachable. She will definitely reply. So if you're approachable too, it makes people will want to like. So and this is not the first, second, third time I hear that she's approachable. I hear that a lot about me. So things like that will actually make people like, we endear people to you and they'll just be like, okay, I can easily talk to this person. This person is easy to talk to. And for me, I don't see why I should be a snob really. If you reach out to me, I'll definitely respond. Although it can be overwhelming sometimes because I have my own life too. But the little help I know I can do, I would definitely like, do that. Yeah.
Rosie, thank you so much for all these tips. Like, we are taking lessons. I know that you're active on social media. I'm like, you're in grad school doing PhD, you're writing exams or something, and then you're teaching. How are you able to like structure your time to like, I think almost every day, like when is posting, I'm like, hey. So how do you think? But I know social media is good to like building personal brand because you have to share stories. People have to know you exist and grow your followership and influence. So how can someone structure that time or like build like a proper social media for their personal branding? Because I know all these things helps a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, yeah, I know I'm very active, but I also take breaks. In fact, this semester I took breaks, but you may not necessarily if someone is very. I noticed two people reached out to me about this. They were very, very observant, and they were like, Rose, we don't really see you post on your blog as you used to do. And I was just smiling like, okay, these people actually noticed. I was still posting on my blog quite all right, but I was only posting on international days, like maybe International Day of Education, International Day of this. Those are the only days I posted this semester because I was very busy. I had to write some exams in grad school, and those exams actually needed me to really focus and concentrate. And I just had to reduce it to just, okay, important events. Unlike before, my blog was every week. But because of that, I was strategic. So even if you check my Instagram page, like especially from January to, you just know you if someone is really very, very observant, you notice a pattern of just international events, or maybe if I win an award, I will just like let me just announce it. But beyond that, I reduced my distance to a very bare minimum. In fact, for some time, even my Twitter usage around February, April, for like a month, I was away from Twitter. So I do that too from time to time. But one thing is that once I'm back, you see me every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. Once I go like that, I don't go like that. So I take breaks sometimes to be able to concentrate. In fact, I used to have a right during my undergrad and even my masters, I have a practice whereby when I have exams, I go off social media. So I do that. But you may not necessarily notice because, of course, the exam will just span through 1 week, 2 weeks, I'm off. Then once I'm back, I'm all active again. So that sometimes I go off social media to be able to concentrate on my work. It happens to me a lot. So yeah, you may see me, but I always try to because sometimes I just have to prioritize it. This is grad school, this is what I have to do. Let me just get things done. Then I also delegate. I have a number of ladies and people around me. Sometimes I delegate, like, okay, could you please do this for me? Could you please do that for me? Then that way I focus on other things. Yeah, that was.
Ah, thank you, Roslyn. Then I want to know, so in terms of, sometimes you try to like grow your network. Some people snub you, they don't respond to you, that kind of like have impact on you. So,
Mm.
and I think that's kind of like rejection. So what advice would you give? Because someone be like, oh, I mean, I've tried to reach out to this person, she doesn't respond to me. I've tried several strategy to like, okay, how am I sure if I talk to someone else, they will give me that chance or that opportunity? One. And then number two, again, in terms of like grad school, I mean, look at the first time you applied, you didn't get nothing. You should have said, I don't think opportunity is for me, or let me not never apply again. And I know it's not every day that you get what you apply for. So how should someone view, would I say a system or be that with that? Even when you're rejected, you should keep applying for opportunities. So what advice? Because some people might go now and start applying and they may face this obstacle of rejection the first time, things like that. So what would you say?
So for the first thing you said about getting rejected, maybe when you send emails to people based on maybe for the purpose of networking. For me, once I actually send a message for the purpose of networking, I always have this mind like, okay, is it that I get a response or not? Like it's something that has been inbuilt in me. So I just send it anyways. If I get a response, all well and good. But sometimes I need some things really well that I really want. I really pray for a response. But sometimes it's just more like, okay, let me just send this. If I get a response, fine. If I don't, all well and good. And I move on with my life. And I will also try to look at alternatives. Maybe, okay, this person can get me to this person. If this person can get me to this person, is there any other person that can get me to this person? So I'll just look at other alternatives and then I go for it when it comes to reaching out. Then another thing I would like to say is that when it comes to reaching out to people, one thing I notice is that sometimes some of us complain that some people are not responding to you. But sometimes one thing I do notice is that we all have a platform whereby we are actually like comfortable with or we respond to most actively. So for some people, if you reach out to them maybe via their email, you may not get a response. Or maybe if reaching out to them via Facebook, maybe they've not even opened their Facebook in 5 months, and you are reaching out to them on Facebook, so they will not respond. So sometimes too, knowing the social media platform the person you're reaching out to is active can actually help you. Then you strategize. Okay, I noticed that this man, he likes Twitter. Some people may be active though, and they don't even check their DMs. So it's like, an interplay of a lot of factors, so to say. So for me, sometimes what I do, sometimes I even send to two of their social media platforms. I do that. I try to restrict it to two so that it doesn't be like, oh, this person is stalking me or something like that too. So at least if I know that you're active here, okay, or email, or sometimes, most times I always try to even get their email address, and that can be difficult. Sometimes I go to Google, Roslyn Adewi email address, just I do that too, just to send them messages. Then I reach out to people like that. So sometimes it's you may be strategic in terms of which social media platform is this person active, and then you go for it. Then in terms of rejections, like I said, rejections are part of lives, a part of life rather. You just have to keep going, keep moving. Sometimes the fact that you don't get some, and for me, even notice like my life pattern or what had happened to me over the time. I just know that I won't get everything I actually go for. So it's just a matter of me trying to say, okay, this has gone, I didn't get it, another one will come, another opportunity will come. And even sometimes a lot of people see me that I get a number of opportunities and all that. But the thing is that in a year, I apply for a lot of things. But let me tell you the truth, the percentage of what I get successful at, I don't think they're up to 5% really, but that 5% actually like makes a difference in my life. And people are like, oh yeah, she gets a lot of things. But compared to the number of things I applied for, it's like very minute. But I still keep going and I keep applying for those things. So just keep going, just keep. They always say winners never quit, then and quitters never win. Something, just keep going. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Rosie. Like I just thank you for like sparing time to like have this section. And I know that it's really impactful. Like personally, I've learned a lot of things. So thank you so much. And
Yeah.
all right. So looking forward to keep in touch with you. So bye everyone. So if you like the video or if you have any more questions, you can drop them in the chat box. You can follow Roslyn. And then yeah, you should vote for Roslyn because is in Junior Chamber International Competition now. So if you go to JCI, you're able to read and then see the link on. I think I also drop it in the video on how to vote for her. I mean, with all these things she have, let's give her flowers. Rosalie, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Okay.